of the key areas that we look at in the research that I do is the homogenisation of persons within under the refugee label. Yeah. One of the issues that's striking when you speak to people who receive refugee status is that they don't actually belong to a refugee group. Yeah. The receiving refugee status is one thing, but to then conceptualise people as belonging to a group that you label as refugees creates a number of misperceptions that are integral to the exclusionary experiences of people who are labelled refugees. So when you look at the Syrian population, for example, you have a very diverse population. Yeah, you have Sunni and Shia Muslim, you have Greek Orthodox, Assyrians, Turkmen, Kurds, a whole host of different religions, atheists, secular communists, women, men, people from different classes, different sexualities, yeah, different status groups. Now, in no way does such a diverse population regroup as a refugee group when they arrive in a different place. Yeah, there's a whole host of other demographic factors and personal experiences related to those demographic factors which affect their experience of resettlement. So when suddenly they're thought of as being a group of, let's say again, Syrian refugees, a certain amount of conceptual violence occurs that ultimately excludes and can run the risk of denigrating and diminishing the prospects of resettlement. So what we've found, for example, is that pre-conflict social roles are highly important, not only in negotiating a conflict during displacement, yeah, but on arrival in a third country. So here's, for example, and I give this example all the time, a 46-year-old woman from Aleppo who's arrived at Pearson Airport to Canada with her family and is greeted as a refugee. Yes, she's received refugee status, that's true. But that woman had 46 years of life which precede the conflict and precede arrival in Canada. Her life did not begin when she arrived in Canada. It didn't begin when the conflict started. And her pre-conflict social identity and roles are extremely important it's what she drew upon or draws upon in helping her get through a conflict. So for example, again, let's say, here's a real life example. Syrian gentleman who received refugee status in Canada, came here with his family, was explaining to us the route that he took in getting here. Yeah. Now his discourse was, when the conflict began, I went to Lebanon. I managed to find a place for us to live. I managed to get myself some unskilled labour job. I came back to Syria, I got my wife and my kids, and we moved to Lebanon. Yeah. Now what he's saying there is very important. He's saying that he used his roles as father, as breadwinner, as spouse, yeah, in making decisions which got him through that conflict. And when you experience a conflict, the forces of conflict, if you will, what they're actually saying to somebody is, you do not have the eligibility to exist. Yeah? We're going to annihilate you. Yeah? We're going to wipe you off the face of the planet. You do not have the eligibility to exist, and you do not have the authority to act as a person with the eligibility to exist. Yes? So unsurprisingly, those two factors become integral to how it is that people confirm themselves during the conflict. So when that father, spouse, breadwinner makes decisions, he's saying, I do have the eligibility to exist, yeah, and I have the authority to act as a father, as a breadwinner, as a spouse, and a whole host of other things which cumulatively came together to make his identity prior to the conflict. So pre-conflict social roles become extremely important in negotiating a conflict. Now, when that father, spouse, breadwinner comes to Canada and receives refugee status, or any other country, and is labelled refugee, and is thought of as an object to be rescued, yeah, by the West, yeah, you're a victim and we've rescued you by giving you refugee status. It undermines all of those other aspects. In the case of the woman from Aleppo, the 46 years of her life, you know, where she was a housewife, had a degree, an occupation, a successful mother, her house was a pillar in the community. You know, a whole host of things that come together to make somebody who they are, a person. And that's why we call these so-called people labelled refugees, persons of self-rescue. They rescue themselves. And while refugee status is important, it's not the whole story. And when people are given refugee status, when they're deemed eligible for refugee status, the one thing that's constant is the desire to move beyond refuge, the aspiration to reconnect with those aspects of their life that were once lost. Now, while they may never reunite with all the aspects that were lost in their lives, the aspiration to reach, to regain those social statuses that they once had is what drives refugee integration.